and welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Concept Show. I'm your host, Paul Rook, and as always, we are exclusive to the PAUK radio network. As always, we are joined by our very stupendous co-hosts, Richard Clements and Kerry Greenaway.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, what have you been up to since I last saw you? It's been ages.
Well, it must have been all of a week.
Yeah, I know.
That long, is it? Oh, he's missing us, Rich.
Absolutely.
Oh, isn't that
Yeah.
cute?
Oh, bless his little cotton socks.
So what have you been up to, Richard? I know you with your parents for...
Well, I was at my parents for Sunday lunch, the first time in a long time, and you know what they say. There's nothing like a home cooked meal done by your mum, is there? I mean, yum and all that. Because I did have a few plans, because it's actually a bank holiday weekend here in the UK, and I did have plans to go out, but everywhere is sort of restricted tickets, and I left it too late because everywhere I wanted to go to was sold out for the rest of the day. And unfortunately I've got stuff to do tomorrow, so so I was halfway there, and at least I managed to get out anyway.
Yeah, that's good. Kerry, what have you got planned for this weekend? Because it's, as Richard said, it's a bank holiday weekend.
It is. I'm being taken out for the day.
Ooh, where
Are you going?
Well, we you know what? I live really close to Tilby, and I've always done Coalhouse Fort, but I've never done Tilby Fort.
Oh, you're going there, are you?
So we're going to have a mooch around Tilby Fort, because I've not done. And I said, he went, "Oh, but you've been there." I went, "No, I've been to Coalhouse Fort, but I've never been to Tilby Fort."
Oh, you'll enjoy it.
Yeah,
I do
So-
like Tilbury.
Yeah, so we're going for a day out there, and you can go in as well. I didn't know you could go inside it.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're not going massively far. And the one thing I did say is I don't want to go anywhere near the beaches because they're rammer-jammed. It was gridlocked going into Southend today.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing, you know, sort of like the traffic on the roads, and even I noticed it when I went out, and I only travelled 3 miles down the road.
I mean, I get that you can go out now, but I still don't feel comfortable going into like a heavily populated area.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And so that's what we're doing tomorrow.
Oh.
excellent.
Yeah,
And I
looking forward to
also want to, because obviously we're going to have a little chat about what Kerry does in a second. I've actually let my IQ elf out for the day.
Yes.
To join us on the studio. So I want to introduce Lucy O'Brien.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Luce.
Hello, Luz.
Hi, Kerry. Hi, Rich.
I'll let her out of the cage for the day.
She's going to slap him for that, though, so don't
Yeah.
worry, folks. She's not that under the thumb.
Yeah, but for those that don't know, I mean, Lucy, and as Paul said, is our IQ alpha. She's always there in the background when we're doing the shows. And if something crops up that we're not too sure of, she's straight on Google, isn't she?
Oh,
So-
yes, straight on it. Text it over to me, and oh, yeah, okay, that's it.
Yeah, our little researcher there.
And she's also our quiz master. She quizzes us on a Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
We do, for people that don't know out there, we do a quiz night amongst like a group of friends on Skype. It started through lockdown and it's continued. We've just continued it and it's great fun. And Lucy is our quiz master. And every way we feel really stupid. And she says, these are primary school questions. And we're all like, what?
What? Are you smarter than a 10-year-old, eh?
Yeah.
Well,
Sometimes we don't even understand the question.
I know. But that's what our Lucy does for us. She's always in the background, always very helpful. She's great. And she's very crystally as well.
Yeah,
yes.
that's why we dragged her on. I'll let her out of the cage because we're talking about the crystals and stuff that you sell, Kerry.
I do. Spirit Soul Island Crystals, everybody. Go over to Facebook and find me on there. plug.
So I live in the Midlands, and like Kerry's down south, and I always get my crystals off her. I don't go to anybody else. So just a bit of a plug there as well.
Thanks, darling. I do like to source the best quality crystals for the best price, everybody. Just saying. Ship worldwide.
But just to let the listeners know, I mean, Kerry doesn't only just sell crystals to us. She has got a bigger customer base than that.
Yeah. I don't just sell it to the boys. Although Paul's
She
getting a
does.
lovely collection now.
I have. I've got some really nice spheres, right? All different sizes, and they look actually spectacular. They really do.
And
Uh,
skulls. You're getting
good
quite a
quality
collection
as
of
well.
skulls.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I've got a few skulls.
And elephants.
Lucy's got the
I've
elephants.
got the Nellies. I'm massive. I love elephants, and I think that you could get them carved as crystals. I started collecting them. I think it's getting more of not a collection now, a bit more of an obsession. It's just like
Yeah,
It's a herd now. She's
but I
got a
must
herd.
say that Kerry does get giant amethysts in at the snip at £275.
I'll tell you what, that was a bargain.
that
Yeah,
was a
cluster.
bargain.
absolutely. So if anyone wants any crystals, Kerry's your gal.
Yeah.
So, if we're going to sort of like probe Kerry a bit, I mean, we might as well ask her straight out, why crystals? How did you get into crystals?
To be fair, it's just something I've always had a fascination with from being little. You know, like when you go to a place and you go to like the gift shop, generally there's going to be crystals in the gift shop wherever you go, you know. And my mum and dad were great all rounders. Like they would take us to castles and museums. And God, I remember what I'll tell you a funny little anecdote. My dad took me to, I think it was to Victoria and Albert in London, and he was fascinated with clocks and the inner mechanisms of clocks. And I was bored. I must have been about 10 or 11, something like that. I was bored shitless. Oh, bored. I was really, really bored. Sorry.
Oh,
Excuse the
Kerry
expression.
said the
I
yes
know.
word.
I'm going to have to put this as explicit, aren't I? And I wandered off, as you do. And then he thought I got lost. So they had like a massive museum search for me. And
Are
then,
you
God, he
sure
had such
you
a
did
go
that?
at me, but he'd been staring at this clock mechanism for blinking ages. It was so boring. But from there, that actually ignited my passion for like castles and museums and gardens and things like that. So what I found quite boring as a child, I've actually now I thoroughly embrace, which is a really funny kind of thing, isn't it? Really, but I would always buy the crystals in the shop, so I always had like a huge range of like tumble stones and mini quartz clusters and things like that that you could get when I was a child. And then when we would go to the Natural History Museum, it wasn't really the dinosaurs I wanted to go and see. It was like the mineral room, the crystal room that they have there, and they've expanded that now into like the living world, and it's all about crystals, and that just fascinates me because they have some massive, massive specimens, and they're gorgeous. And I don't really care about the rest of the museum. When I go to the Natural History Museum, it's just that. But that's sort of, I couldn't actually tell you why. But I mean, yeah, they're pretty, but I've always had that draw to it. Do you know what I mean? And I always like going to the beach and picking up stones on the beach. And I'm always on the lookout for things like that. But it's always the rock side rather than the leaves and the twigs and the, you know, that sort of thing. It was always the rocks that I was drawn to. And yeah, it's funny. I've always seemed to have just had that affinity to it. So going into the later life, when I picked up the selling of crystals, that actually came from I was moving down the spiritual path anyway, reading tarot cards, and my friend had bought me a deck of cards, and that had been a good few years before. And then I was so bored with my life. I was a single mum, stuck at home with them, couldn't go out much. My life was the computer, and I've been doing eBay selling the kids' clothes and stuff like that. And I had 3 jobs, part-time jobs, fitted around the kids, you know, that sort of thing. But I still just was so poor. I was really in a poverty state, and I knew I had to do something that was going to bring money in effectively. But it had to I also recognised the fact that it had to be something that I wanted to do rather than had to do. I couldn't take on another mundane job, as it were. Even though those mundane jobs are great, they weren't fulfilling me as a person. And then I'd taken the kids, funny enough, to the Natural History Museum for a day out, and we'd gone to the crystal room. And that night, my son, he's choking to death on it. He would not sleep. And so we came downstairs and we was on the computer, and there was nothing suitable watching for a 6 or 7-year-old he was then. And so we was on the computer, and I was just like putting up different specimens and talking to him about crystals, and just looking at things that we'd seen during the day, really. And funnily enough, the first website that came up was actually a wholesaler, and it was him who actually turned around and said, "Have a look." And I was like, "Okay, we'll have a look." And it was a £70 minimum order, which isn't a lot, but it was still too much. I didn't have £70. Anyway, I was like, "Oh, that's like a pipe dream. That would be like the seed." It was the seed that was planted really that night. Anyway, I went to a friend's. They went to their dad's for the weekend, and I went round a friend's house. And she'd been to a metaphysical shop and bought some angel cards. And we'd been talking about tarot readings and angel readings and stuff like that. And we were playing around with these cards. And I pulled 3 angel cards out. And the first one was crystals. And the second one was go for it. And the third card was way forward. And I just sat back because I hadn't even told her what had happened the night before. We weren't even talking about that side of it and got to that point of the conversation, if you know what I mean. And it was like, I can't believe that that's just happened. And then literally the next day after that, this all happened in succession. It was in the same week. The next day after that, I got a check through the post from the electricity company who were, there had been a big court case or something to do with the electricity company about overcharging people. And they'd sent everybody like a bit of a refund out. And they'd sent me this check. And it was for the exact amount for a minimum order that this wholesaler was. And I just, it was just one of those defining moments where I sat and thought that amount of money, I could do this, I could do this, and this with it. And then I thought, no, I need more of a longevity. Let's see if I can make this work. And then I put my first order in. And when I think about my first order, I didn't have a clue. I was just ordering. I bought a tarot deck and some tarot silks and some crystals, and I bought a bit of everything. Do you know what I mean? Because I just didn't know. That went within a week, and then with what I made off that, I put the next order in, and it just grew from there. So, yeah, that's how it all started, going down that route. But it was like a natural progression from, interests that I'd had really from a child, without even knowing the world of the crystal world, really.
Thanks to the electricity company.
Yeah.
Got into your crystal selling.
So when did you sort of move from sort of crystals being aesthetically pleasing, you looked at them, when did you realise that they possessed sort of powers, or spiritual sort of powers and stuff like that?
When I started to get different ones in, I started to recognise different energies with them. And obviously when I'm getting crystals in, I'm researching them and putting them up and learning about each crystal I got more deeply than I had before. But I started to feel the difference. And then things started to happen in synchronicities in my life. I'd be working with a particular crystal, like just when I say working with, I'm talking about like just having it on the desk, researching it, looking at it, learning about it, all that sort of thing. And then it was just sort of like it's like that energetic vibe you get. And then at one point I got a delivery in and I knew something was wrong with the delivery before I'd even opened the box. And as I opened the box, I'd ordered a quartz geode and it had split into 2. It shouldn't have. It was not supposed to be in 2. It was supposed to be in 1. But I knew that before. And it was like little things. It was a build up of a lot of little different things that I suddenly was thinking, oh God, there is something more to this than just a pretty rock. Do you know what I mean? And to say it was just lots of little like synchronicities and little things that was happening in my life. And when I was doing like lucky dip crystals, the crystals that were coming out were very relevant to what was going on at the time in my life. And then I had a headache one night and I knew from research that amethyst was supposed to be really good for headaches. And I'd sat there with this amethyst on my forehead. My kids thought I was balmy. Why not go for the cold compress, Mum? No, I'm going to go for the pretty crystal, thanks. And literally within 10 minutes it had cleared. With the amethyst, it was just things like that really awakened me to the full power. And then once I got quite a collection, once the business had built, people were saying, like, you walk into the crystal room, because I'm very lucky. I have a conservatory that I do all my crystal and energy work in. And then when you walked into that room, it's a step into a different world. And then I started to be able to work intuitively from tarot reading. I realized that you could then translate that skill over into picking crystals for the right person. And it was only through verification from other people. So I'd be like, let me have a go. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes spiritual work is about just having a go. And then when I was realizing I could attune that and work with that sort of tarot reading, but with crystals vibe, I started pulling pouches together for people, doing readings off the back of what the crystals pulled out. And I was doing that purely energetically. And that was weird, because it was like I knew it would be, I don't know, say a smoky quartz. And then I'd be feeling across, and it would be one smoky quartz out of all of the smoky quartzes that suddenly worked. But the others didn't feel right, but that one felt right. And that's when it really started to open that door to me of, yeah, there's more to this. So it was lots of different things that made it to what it is today, how I work today. And that happened really quickly. Once I opened that door, that started to open really, really quickly. And anybody who steps into the spiritual and hits the crystal world has a very similar story. I think, Lucy, you've talked about this yourself in a way, haven't you?
Yeah, I came into Free Crystals with paranormal. I think that's how everybody that pretty much I know started through it, because excuse me, and the spiritual side of it. And then when you work in meditations, people give you advice and say, "I'll work with this crystal and see how you feel with working through the energies and stuff." And you just try it, and that's how your collection grows. That's how you feel the vibe. I feel vibrations of crystals as well. That's how I know what it is. I mean, you can put a crystal in my hand and I instantly know what it is from a vibration without even looking at it.
So is it just crystals that have got this power, or is it just even like if you was walking along the road and you picked up a pebble, for example?
Anything organic.
Okay.
It would be anything organic. In my experience, it's anything organic. I mean, I always say, like, when you go to a wood, there are energetic differences between woods. So you could go to, I don't know, Hockley Wood, and it'll feel one way. You go to Rendlesham, it feels another. And a lot of that is to do with the organic energy signature as an ecological system, a wood. But each will have its own energy signature, which is why, when you talk about, when we talk about various workings you do, whether it's with herbs, whether or not it's with crystals, whether or not it's with wood, those sort of things. We talk about wands, different woods have different energy signatures. So, when you start looking at it as an organic thing rather than just crystal, what I mean? It opens up that door, and all of a sudden you've got that energy feel is different, and you start picking up with it in your environment, and that becomes incredibly powerful. Isn't it? And that's where it opens up to more of a universal thing rather than just a narrow perspective. I mean, I focus obviously on crystals because that's what I do. But when we work outside and we're doing that kind of work, you're linking into the energy that's surrounding the environment. And you get that more actually in a natural environment than you do in a plastic or steel works or that kind of environment, a man-made kind of environment. Still has a vibe, but not as strong as a natural organic environment. So you can walk down a beach and pick up stones and have an energetic signature as much as a pretty amethyst would do.
Okay.
Got anything to add to that, Liz?
No, I always it's different energies, isn't it? Because I always feel calm. It's within this setting that you're in. It's got different. You are right with different energies, because I instantly feel calmer if I walk out the flat and walk down the canal because of the environment I'm in. If I touch a tree, I get certain vibrations off the tree as well. So it's all energy, all links into energy.
And the understanding that it is all interconnected as well is that understanding that, you know, you are connected. You're not an individual, unique being that's completely unconnected. You are connected to everything. Everything is connected to each other. And when you start thinking and looking at and feeling that, you're never alone.
No.
This is why Prince Charles talks to plants.
But look at look at the work he's done in that field.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You know, he got mocked for that, and yet now there's been
yeah.
experiments done where it shows that we impact our circle by we've talked about this before on a show, where you can impact somebody with your vibration and what you put out there.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about that concept quite a lot.
You said like just a little while ago that we're all connected and everything's connected. So yeah, stands to reason that what you put out there, if you're a negative person, then you're going to have a negative influence on everything around you, whether it's plants or minerals or what, you know.
Exactly.
That's the thing as well. When we do seances in the field, in the paranormal field as well, if you join hands with somebody, sometimes I've noticed it in the past. Obviously, we give off vibrations, and people have stronger vibrations than others for energy, and it's amazing. Like some people are really sparky and hello, I'm here, and other people are like, you know, like a lead balloon. It works differently. It's just all energy.
Well, I think, you know, you can sort of put that into everyday life. I mean, we all sort of have been to parties and stuff, and you can actually tell as soon as you walk in the room, especially if something's happened before you've walked in. You know, the actual atmosphere seems heavier, if you know, or if there's somebody, you know, you sort of don't like or something. It will interfere with your interaction with that space, won't it?
It will, but you also have to understand that you can change that energy in that space if it doesn't feel right by using plants and crystals and things like that in your environment. So you can open that space up for an energetic change by incorporating different tools within that, which is why crystals within the home is fantastic use of crystals, because they keep that energy flowing and they keep that space open. I'm not talking open for any, you know, Tom, Dick or Harry spirit to come through, but just for your own energy signatures that are in the house, you know, family interactions, people coming into your home, you know, those sort of things. You can keep your space flowing. So, you know, when we took even plants, how many people say keep plants in your house? First of all, they keep the air fresher because they're helping to recycle that just on a basic level. You know what I mean? But they're also a little personality in their own right. We talk about crystals having personalities, being little sentient beings all by themselves. Plants are very much the same. You know what I mean? So things like that, it's really important to have those natural elements within the home and have that crossover between your outside space and your inside space. It makes that energy flow a lot easier. And there's a lot to be said for that. You know, I think again, it's another woo-woo idea, isn't it? Of it's all feng shui, and but it works. It does work. I mean, even psychologically, there's a link between a person's environment and their learning ability in universities and stuff. They changed. They had a lecture. I remember talking to Cal Cooper once, and he was talking about positive mindset. And he was saying how the impact of your environment is very impactful on your mindset, and just changing your environment and putting brighter colors or more soothing colors and plants around actually increased your ability and your attention and your positivity and your, you know, your learning ability. And it made such a difference in the lecture room that they did this experiment with. You know, it made such a difference, and it's so important to recognize that. And if it's not right, don't be afraid to change it. People seem to be afraid to change or incorporate things. And I think that's the biggest fallacy in this world today is people feel they can't change something. Whereas in actual fact, we should constantly be reviewing and be prepared to change something if it's not right.
Yeah, that does actually sound right to me. Yeah, I mean, I sort of spent most of my working life working in sort of like industry, and that's a very sort of man-made sort of area. You know, there's not a lot of feng shui there, trust me. And yeah, and it wasn't until I sort of stopped doing that, it's sort of like my life changed really for the better. So yeah, I can certainly agree with that aspect of it, you know. But as you can imagine, sort of working in factories and stuff, they're not really interested in introducing potted plants and stuff like that.
No.
So
No, they're not. I mean, you have got to consider the job you're doing. I mean, sometimes it's not
yeah,
safe, is it?
yeah,
In
that's
an
right.
industrial environment, you know what I mean? I've worked in factories. I've worked currently my day job, because I do a day job as well. I work in a shop, but a lot of that is like you'll be surprised at how much psychology goes into the shopping experience for customers, even more so at the moment
Yeah,
because of what's happened. Um, first of all, we had to change the shop to make it socially accept, social distancing and all that malarkey. So there's now a
hmm,
flow, and that flow has actually increased footfall and sales
yeah,
in a really weird way. And then as we've got, because at the moment supply lines aren't quite right because things are still not quite right globally, we're having to rearrange the shop floor to fit the stock we have. So again, we're changing it up. And every time we change it, it does have an impact. And customers seem happier. They're talking and going, oh God, I love this. I love what you've done here. And it encourages interaction and communication. And if you're talking to people, that's a good thing because again, you're getting connection. So, even in an environment that you can't necessarily do a proper feng shui or something like an environment you haven't got any control over, there are ways you can do things to make it a little bit more acceptable. But it's again, a lot of that is down to who you work with. I worked in factories and we used to have a great crack, but there was no feng shui there, like you say, Richard. So it does depend on your job and who you're with and what you're doing.
yeah,
If you're not happy in a job, why not change it?
yeah, that's right.
Have the strength to go, I'm really not happy doing this. I'm going to change it. I'm not saying give it up before you've got something else. What I'm saying is be proactive. See what else is out there. Cast the net. See what you can do. Look at your own skill set. Look at your transferable skills.
Yeah,
Things I've learned through my crystal business, I've transferred into my day job, which has worked. It's crazy actually. And things I've learned in selling through the shop, I've incorporated into my crystal business. So there's crossovers and transferable skills and things that I've taken from past jobs that I now incorporate in my job today, and things like that. Look at your own skill set and be positive and, remind yourself of your good bits, not just your crap. I mean, the mind monkeys are horrible. That when you get a mental mindset of fighting your own mind is one of the hardest battles.
it is difficult. Yeah,
And I'm not going to undermine that battle because we've all been there. All of us, all
yeah,
four of us on this call today,
Yeah.
have been through our own mental mindset battles, and it's incredibly difficult to fight your own mind. But you can start by going, okay, first of all, declutter for a start. That's a good way. A first good step is just declutter. And if you can make money off that, boot sale, eBay, anything like that, that's a good way of starting that process of clearing your mind to actually start seeing the wood from the trees, as it were, going
mm,
back to wood. You know, even forests and trees have a guy or a team that clear the crap. Basically, they go in there and with the forestry commission, they take out the dead wood or remove areas that are overpopulated. They manage the wood,
yeah.
don't they? And they have done
That's-
for years.
I mean, yeah, sort of woodland management is nothing new. They've been
No.
doing it for centuries.
And there's a reason why they do that. So
Mm.
use those, again, transferable skills. That's what they do. You can incorporate that skill in your own life. All right, you're not actually cutting down trees, but you're getting rid of a wardrobe that, I don't know, is full of clothes that don't fit you anymore, or books, Richard, that you don't
Yeah,
read.
Which I have, and sort of like advice from you and stuff, which I personally have started to do, and it is good. You're sort of I'm cataloguing what I've got, starting to move out the stuff I've read or I won't read. Because I'm a great one for buying stuff I don't read as well. Books. This is, but yeah, I've set up a little eBay shop, and yeah, things are going well, sort of not fantastically, but they're ticking over really well. It's
And it makes you
surprising.
feel good, right?
It does, yeah.
And Luce, you've had a clear out recently, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had a clear out not last week, the week before. And you just feel so much better for doing it. And we're talking spiritual practices as well. And I've been saging quite a lot around the house and stuff at the flat. What I do, and it does feel lighter in here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's surprising what I could clear out and how much energy goes with all the junk that you've been hoarding in your life.
I mean, this is the other thing, right? I think people forget that whenever, it's your old favourite jacket, you loved it, you wore it endlessly, right? You don't want to get rid of it. It might be tatty now, but you've got a lot of good times associated with this jacket. You don't want to get rid of it, but it's way past its sell-by date. You're never going to wear it again. You might even not be able to fit into it anymore, or it's totally out of fashion, right? Energetically, you're still holding on to that past.
It's because it's sentimental, isn't it? That's why.
Because it's sentimental. But ultimately, it's clutter.
Yeah.
Because those memories don't go just because you've got rid of the jacket. You've still got those memories. And that's the understanding of you have still got that information. It doesn't have to be attached to the object, and have the strength to let go. And part of that is having the strength to let go of the past.
Mm-hmm.
You've still got that memory. You've still got those learning experiences and those fun times and the people that were associated at that time. That's still in your mind. And in photographs, because that's one thing I would say, don't ever get rid of is photographs. I just think people hold on to stuff too much in lots of different ways, not just like emotionally, but with stuff. So it's good to have a clear out. And actually, when we talk about cleansing our space, that starts with decluttering and physically cleaning it, and then you can energetically clean it. Because once it's perfectly clean and decluttered, you then go, right, okay, so this space is now opened up. What works? Does it feel right still? I can move it now easier because I'm not moving all the crap with it, for one. And secondly, does that space feel better if I move this around, if I move my bed into this area or whatever, and things like that? And you'll be surprised the difference a change around does. You might not be able to afford new stuff, but make do with what you've got. I learned as I say, I was a single mum for a lot of years, and we had pots of paint and bits of stuff that have been shoved in the garage, and I didn't have money, but I renovated my house, redid my house, redecorated my house with just what was in the garage. Make do and mend is a good thing, and we should be looking at things like that more. And it's really positive because you go, I didn't need to buy paint. I've just done that with what I've had. I've utilised a skill I had, utilised things I had, like making money off of books that you've had and have just sat there. And it's a positive mindset feeling that makes a change in your life. And I just can't advocate that enough. And this is like the basis of spiritual learning. It's about knowing yourself. It's about embracing all of you, good and bad, because spiritual work is not always pretty, is it, Luce?
No.
It can be messy.
It can be very messy at times.
And you're facing your fears, and you're facing your blocks, and you're facing your crap, and you're facing your past, and you're facing all these things that you've buried and don't want to face particularly. But if you do it, clear it, honestly, it's very empowering.
100%. And I'll say to anybody who's got clutter in their life, now is pretty much the time to do it because of what's happened in the pandemic. We're the UK is slowly coming out of lockdown at the minute, and now's the time to have good clean, folks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Neil,
A good sort out and a good sage, and just get some positivity. Try and get your life back.
Mhm.
you can have less stuff that COVID could be sitting on.
And, and and traditionally, this is the time of year you do it anyway, and this is like the spring clean, isn't it? I mean, there's even like an historical precedent to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone, it used to be the spring clean when your mum used to go around and totally clean the house from
Yeah.
top to bottom.
Used to do
Yeah.
my nut in that.
But again, you know, historically looking at it, when winter comes, they hold up in like a big room, you know, basically
Yeah.
going right back. You'd have whole, you know, villages and stuff have one big room of like a common room, and then there were little houses. They didn't go out much apart from, you know, foraging and stuff like that. But it was very village in rather
Yeah.
than tending your crops and stuff like that. So it was a way of clearing all the dirt that had been built up, you know, all the
Over the winter
parasites
months,
and
yeah.
stuff that build up in the living areas over the winter months. So yeah, it's a really important process. I mean, I think through lockdown, I think a lot of people took the opportunity to have a good clear out
Yeah.
and to, you know, rejuvenate their living space. Great. Do it with your outside space as well. You know, incorporate that. It's so important. People overlook it. They go, "Oh God, to be cleaning." Oh, you feel so much better once it's done.
100%, 1,000,000%.
But as you tell me, Kerry, and you should make it like an exercise as well. You have to jump about as you clean.
Oh God, yeah. Put your music on, full
Yeah,
blast. Enjoy that. You're cleaning your space. You invested
Yeah,
money, and all the things
that's
that you
right.
put into your home, you've invested money into.
I have
And
to
you,
say though, I have seen Richard clean his flat, and he puts on Queen, "I Want to Break Free," even dresses up like it, everything.
however you want to do it, darling, you
Well,
do
how
it.
you want to do it? I want to, yeah. Oh yes, we all remember that video, don't we?
Oh yes.
We certainly do. Yeah. I actually saw a YouTube video of somebody who was talking about they were taking the mickey, actually. They were trying to take the mickey, but I don't think I think the irony was lost on them about how relevant they were. And it was like, how do you cleanse your house? Like spiritually cleanse your house. And they were going around and fluffing up cushions and straightening an ornament and, you know, silly things and taking the mick, quite frankly. But honestly, it makes a difference. Washing all your ornaments and then putting them all back out in a nice, clean way. Honestly, it is so cathartic and it is so important because the feel good factor once you've got a lovely, clean home, uncluttered, looking bling, exactly how you want it, is there's no better feeling. And it's the first step. If you're feeling in the doldrums, as it were, and your mental mindset is not great, it's a good first step that you can do to then take it further to maybe sell things that now don't serve you, or, you know, give to charity the bits that your kids don't use anymore or whatever it be. You know, however that is, it's a good first step to making those changes for your mental well-being. And this, anyone can apply this. This isn't necessarily spiritual. This is just factual. You know, I do my infamous crystal room clear out. I do it at the beginning of the year, 1st of January, crystal room clear out, where I've got crystals that are clamoring for their guardians that I reduce down and clear because it clears the deck for and freshens up my crystal room for the next year. You know, ones that have been hanging around too long and, you know, things like that, just to freshen it up, just to clear pieces out, you know, generally less than what I've paid for them. And just, it makes the crystal room feel so much better once I've done that. It's just amazing how that simple process works.
Okay then, Carrie, I've got a few questions for you because we're talking about homes and we're talking about clearing and stuff like that. What crystals would you recommend for like the main rooms in your house?
For your main room, so like your living room.
So the living room, what would you recommend in the living room?
For there, you don't want stagnant energy. It's easy to get into that sludge bum effect in your front room and just use it for the Netflix and chill. when your living room can be a whole different ball game if you use it as such. It can be an area where you can have good conversations, that you want the energy flowing rather than stagnating. So for a front room, which is basically a communication area, not a sit and watch TV kind of area, should be a communication area. You're sitting around chatting and having conversations and coffees and stuff like that. So you want your selenites and you want your blue crystals, so like blue calcites and celestites and those kind of crystals, and even quartz and amethyst to keep that flow going and that positive energy going. So that's for a living room. Now, if I was going into a study area where you want concentration, you want focus, you want creativity, you want to bring some inspiration into your work and creativity, then I'd go for more the fiery crystals. I'd go for the carnelians and the fluorites, which is like the purple and green ones.
Put the words out my mouth, yeah.
Yeah, and the eight gates and stuff like that, you know, all of those. Kitchen is almost like your spell room. When you're cooking, you can look at it in regards to making a spell. You're bringing lots of ingredients together to make a final intention of a cake, for example, or a meal for the family. So again, you want energy, you want crystals that are melding together. So your composite crystals are really good for the kitchen area. So you'll want things like, you know, unakite, and again, you'll want to bring in your carnelians and, you know, all those kind of crystals that have got bits of other crystals in it, as it were, you know, like we call them composite crystals, which are made up of 2 or 3 different crystals. They're great for the kitchen because it's about melding all those elements together to produce something. So if you're a budding chef, then definitely get maybe an orange calcite in there and, you know, stuff like that. And certain areas of your house, you would have more calming crystals, like your bedroom, right? When you go to your bedroom, you want ones that are just like a bit more zen and put you to sleep and give you a nice calm energy after the day you've had. So you're going to go for your amethysts, and again, a lovely calcite, or a white calcite would go nice in there. A rose quartz definitely on your table where you get ready. Your area where you get ready is fantastic because that's all about self-love and self-esteem and feeling good about yourself and stuff like that.
Is
and
it
then
the jasper that you're not supposed to put in the bedroom?
Don't put your reds in your bedroom.
I thought
So
it was reds.
Yeah, don't put your reds in your bedroom. The only one I would say is if you want to pep your sex life up, you can introduce garnet. But only whilst you want to get jiggy. The minute you finished your jiggy, get it out of there because you ain't going to be sleeping otherwise. Do you know what I mean? So if you want to pep your sex life up, then pepper it with red crystals. But the minute you're done, when he's off cleaning himself up, you go and get your red crystals out right away. Get them out of that bedroom. Go back to your rose quartzes and your amethysts and your lipidolites and things like that.
So if you want that, you've got to get Alf Garnett into your bedroom.
So there are things you can do to affect the mood as well. So but generally you want to sleep, don't you?
Yeah.
So you'd have your calming crystals, lipidolites and things like that. But if you want to go into dream analysis, then use things like dream amethyst and lipidolite and garden quartz and stuff like that in your bedroom, because if you're going into the dream world and looking at dream analysis, and those are great for helping you first of all recall your dreams, because you want to remember. And you should always, the minute you wake up, you're writing it down, otherwise you'll forget if you leave it 10 minutes. Because the dreams fade.
Yeah.
How many times?
When I dream, I had a dream. Everyone pretty much does that.
Yeah.
But the second I open my eyes, it's gone instantly. I wouldn't even be able to write it down.
Yeah, I get very vivid dreams. I could write them down. Sometimes, I still have dreams now that I can remember. So I don't know. Maybe you should try working with a little crystal and see if that affects your dreaming, Paul.
Yeah.
I'd try it.
I'll get a red one.
Is it experiment? Again, experiment with it. Oh, God. Poor old Lucy.
Yeah. Get ready, Luce.
Well, actually, when he goes home for the weekend or for the week, send him home with the red crystal. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Then you haven't got to worry about the impacts. do have a rather juicy garnet sphere we could send home with him.
Okay.
Oh dear me, yeah.
I
So I think we've more or less gone through every room in the house now. What about
Not
bathroom?
quite. I was going to say, not quite. You need to look at your furthest southwest corner. That's your prosperity corner in Feng Shui. And in that corner, you have your prosperity and wealth crystals. So pyrite, green adventurine, carnelian, citrine, those kind of things. Put in your furthest southwest corner from your door. And
So what's the rationale behind that? Is that it and it will draw in wealth and prosperity through your front door or something? Or
no, because your front door is right. Think of your doors as energy out. Yeah. So when you look at your house, whatever house you've got or flat or whatever, look at your energy flow. So anything that opens to the outside is going out, right?
right,
So your front door is your main focus. That's flow of energy going out. So anything money wise, you don't want to flow out. You want to keep in, right? You want to draw in and keep in. So that corner tends to be the one that's furthest away and is hard for the energy to flow out in, as it were. So, for example, my corner is in my bathroom, right, which is my furthest corner away from my front door in the southwest corner, right? It just happens to, I'm lucky enough, it happens to be right in the right spot. Now, for that energy to flow out of my house, it's got to go out my bathroom, into the hallway, down the stairs which curl round, down into the dining room, out through my living room, and then out through the hallway, out into the street. That's
right.
a long way for energy to flow. And that's what you're looking at, energy flow. So when you place your bed, you don't want to place your bed with your feet or head towards the door, because your energy is flowing straight out of the door.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where you start looking at placement of things.
And this is more of a Feng Shui sort of thing, is it?
It's more of, I'm not 100% on Feng Shui. I've not studied Feng Shui, but when you start looking at the principles of Feng Shui, it's about energy flow and keeping certain aspects. So you've got your prosperity and wealth, you've got family connections, you've got, all the different aspects of life, and making the space work for you in those where you get it. So it's working in a way that you're not losing energy, you're keeping flow, but not losing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I always thought it was a superstition.
What's a superstition?
That
Feng
you
Shui?
shouldn't- No, that with regarding the whole bed thing, that you shouldn't sleep with your feet like facing the door. Because I know it's energy, but I always thought it was superstition as well.
It probably is partly superstition, but they certainly believe in it in China.
So has anyone actually got wealthy out of this practice then?
It's not about getting wealth or being wealthy. It's about keeping your wealth. So what you work for, you keep rather than going out the door.
Yeah, but isn't that sort of pretty much what happens anyway?
Uh-uh.
You don't need a crystal to keep your money.
I disagree with that.
Just don't spend your money.
No. It's not as easy as that, is it? Some people seem to be able to hold, some people seem to be like savers and some people are spenders.
Yeah, but the savers won't need that crystal then because they'd be saving it anyway.
But the ability to hold on to that money, you could save all the money in the world, but things will keep going wrong and your money goes. So you could save all the money in the world, but then, I don't know, something will happen and you'll have to spend it.
But then you've got like the Alan Sugars of the world as well. I bet they haven't got these crystals. Money's nothing to him, isn't it?
No, but you don't know if he's got crystals or not, do you?
Oh, I'm just using it as a devil's advocate, sort of.
Yeah, well, we don't know whether he's got crystals. He might well do have. You don't know.
He might well have got a Feng Shui specialist in and he's Feng Shui'd up, mate.
Yeah.
You don't know. No, you're gonna. At the end of the day, this is about enhancing your natural abilities. It's not going to make you money. if you go and buy a citrine crystal, that's not going to like all of a sudden money flock to you. You have to be invested in that.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I've sort of like looked at sort of like occult workings and stuff like that, and and it's like it's like praying as well. I mean, if I mean, and in occult workings, I mean, if you do want sort of money, it's not going to fall out, and you do a ritual, it's not going to fall out the air and land in your lap, and it will usually come. Usually through your main source of income or something like that. You may sort of like if Kerry's sort of done a ritual, sort of she needed earn a little bit an extra, and the next day, and she might get a really big crystal order in that will cover what she sort of wanted. It's you still have to live within your means.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've got
what you're doing, right? So look at it, right? So okay, we go back to crystals being sentient beings, right? So say your crystal is like your mate. If I said to my friend, I'm dead skin, I'm needing money, the chances are my mate will come up with a load of different opportunities or ideas of how I could get that money. Very rarely are they going to go, well, there you go, there's the money.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? It will help you send that message out. It will be your pal in regarding sending your message out to the universe that that's what you need, and it will provide you with the opportunities to bring that in.
I do sort of buy into that because all through my life I've always said, like if I need money for anything or an opportunity comes my way and I haven't got the money, I know something will come up that will allow me to get that money to do what's come up.
That's
and
right.
It always works. It's
yeah, you sort of just give it over to the universe. Or, there's that old sort of chestnut. But it can work, I mean, and it's worked for me. Especially, I can think of something a couple of weeks ago. I was, and I was a bit short of money. Not a lot. There was just a £20 gap. And the next morning I got up and went on to me emails, and I had 2 books sold for £25. That's not a great amount of money, and you could argue, well, those orders would have come anyway, but just accept it for what it is.
But didn't Carl Jung say there's no such thing as coincidence?
Yes, I think he did.
You put it down to a coincidence. Okay, so you sold 2 books, it's a coincidence, it just happened at the right time. How many things happen at the right time when you put the intention out there? Whether you do that intention through just sitting out in the garden and talking to the sky, or doing a ritual, or working with a crystal, or it's uncanny how working, and these are spiritual practices. You know what I mean? It's not all about money either. If you're constantly asking for money, at some point the universe is going to say, oh, for God's sakes, get off your butt and do your own work.
Yeah.
You've got to put the work in. It's not, like I say, your best mate ain't going to turn around and say, well, there you go, there's, I don't know, £100,000 that you're asking for. The opportunities, I know, it'd be lovely, wouldn't it, if they did that?
Listen to this. I could do with that.
They're not going to do that. It's very, very rarely is that going to happen, and give it to you as well, not just like no strings attached kind of situation. You've got to see it like talking to your best mate. They'll come up with loads of ideas, and whether or not you act on that, that's up to you. The opportunities will present themselves because you sent that message out, and utilizing tools like nature tools and universal energy, you're putting it out to the universe in whatever way you do that, through organic connection, which is what crystal work is, but going into the woods, talking to the nature elements and all that sort of thing. It's all working with the universal energy of connection. Put that connection, or put that intention out into that connection, and the opportunities will arise for you to do that. It's up to you. That's your individual responsibility then to then take that forward and work with it. If you're looking for a man or a partner, should we say, because there's not just women on this call, if you're looking for a relationship, your soulmate relationship, they ain't going to come knocking on your door. You've got to go looking for it. You can put the intention out there of what it is you're looking for. You can't put it onto a specific person, like I know Gerard Butler, for example. I can't sit there and write down Gerard Butler's all his attributes and say manifest Gerard Butler for me. The universe isn't going to do that. But if I say, right, I'd like a man who's, I don't know, taller than me. I'd like a man who doesn't like sport. I'd like a man who has a great sense of humour, and focus on positives as well on this one. If anybody who's going to try this one, don't put negatives on your list. Always focus on the positives, because again, you want a positive mindset on this. You don't want a negative mindset. Yeah. So you go, okay, so I want positives. So it's all very good, we look at our past relationship. Well, I don't want a man who does this, or a woman, whoever's listening to this. I don't want a woman like that who nags constantly, and I don't want a woman who does this, or a man who does this. You know what I mean? It's all, we carry baggage from past relationships. So as you think about it, what lessons did you learn from all those past relationships, and what would you like in your relationship? And put the positives down on your wish list of a person, and you're looking at attributes, not necessarily physical. Don't focus on the physical. That's the other side of it.
I just want to let you know as well, Kerry, that I have just received a text message from Gerard Butler. He wants your phone number.
Oh, then feel free to give it to him, but don't tell my partner, because he'll go a bit crazy about that.
I have messaged him back and said no. She wants to chase you instead.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? If you're sitting at home and not going to not going out, being sociable, not making the effort, no matter how much you put down on your list of all the positive attributes you want of a person, they're not going to come knocking on your door.
No, that's right. You've got to go out and find it.
You've got to go out and be available. And I'm not saying be available for just anything. Be available and be discerning. Recognize what doesn't serve you. Don't be afraid to say no just because someone's asked you out on a date. Do you know what I mean? You've got to, and this is self-responsibility. What's right for you? The minute someone's displaying a red flag that you've seen before in a past relationship, don't be afraid to address it with that person. And if they're not prepared to work with you and be that, they're not your partner. It's little things like that. It's being responsible for yourself, your space, your creation, your world. Be responsible for that. Work with universal energy to help manifest that, but don't expect it to be handed to you on a silver platter.
See, I think my inspiration for doing anything is, I mean, as you know, and Richard, I do come up with a lot of good ideas, and the second someone says, no, you can't do that, that's it. That's my focus. That's where I'm going, because someone said I couldn't do it.
I think when someone says things like that, they're actually viewing you from a spectrum of their own fears, their own blocks.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because that's the other thing. When you talk about ideas and stuff with other people, again, it's very, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do this. Great if they come up with constructive reasons, but if they're just giving it, oh no, you shouldn't do that, and not really got anything basic, that's the spectrum of them stopping themselves from doing anything. And because they're stopping themselves, they kind of don't understand why other people can do that. So again, there's that exchange, isn't there? Do you take it and allow them to put their block on you? No,
I just do it, and then when it's done, I'm like, see, now I could do it. Now let's see what the next project is.
I think that's bloody mindedness, though, to be fair.
It just goes to prove, though, that anyone can do anything.
Yeah, you can.
There's no point just sitting there going, oh yeah, they said I couldn't do it, so I won't bother. No, bother, get it done. Rub it in their nose.
Negative and stuff is so easy to do. It's being positive, and that's the hard thing, and that's the thing you should work towards.
Yeah, but it's so much fun.
Because anyone can sit there and say,
and rub it in their face and go, look, see, told you I could do it. Mug.
Yeah. That is the way to get your own back on anyone. I'm not saying you should go out and get revenge and get your own back, but a good way of actually sort of getting your own back and taking your power back is being a success at whatever you choose to do.
But then if it doesn't work, tweak it, change it, find other ways of doing things. It doesn't have to be a complete success the first time round. If at first you don't succeed, cheat, No. If the first show succeed, try again. You know, just take that attitude. If it goes wrong, okay, it went wrong. What did you know? And just self-evaluate. Why did it go wrong? What can I do to make it better?
Yeah.
You know, when I first started doing paranormal investigation events, I basically had a form for everyone, you know, and asking them, you know, if they enjoyed it, you know, what could have made it better, you know, and stuff like that, and just sort of self-criticised. And yeah, I mean, we got all sorts of feedback. The only negative one was we needed more laser grid pens.
Which is easily rectified.
But
yeah, which is
that was the only negative comment. So obviously we got, you know, we hit the nail on the head straight away, and had a good events company, you know. But we still took the negative comments to make it a better experience for other people.
yeah.
You know, that's how you got to do it. That's how you got to see, you know.
Well, on that note, we've actually come to the end of the first half of the show. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back after the break, we're going to actually delve into the self-evaluation side of things a little bit more deeply, because this is another area of spiritual practice that sometimes is a little misunderstood. So join us right after this.
Hello, Harry Price here. If there's nothing me and my friends enjoy more here on the other side, it is to sit back and relax and listen to the Paranormal Concept Show right here on the PAUK radio network, broadcasting a plethora of interesting and informative content for all your paranormal needs. Find them across social media to keep up to date with forthcoming shows and all their other adventures. Hello, is there anybody there?
Concept exclusive to the Paranormal UK radio network. Now tonight we're talking all things spiritual from different perspectives. We've all got different perspectives on this, and before the break we were talking about self-responsibility and self-evaluation, weren't we?
We was.
Now this is one that's a very difficult one. It's very good to be judgmental on other people. But I think what you have to do in those circumstances is take a step back and ask why you're being judgmental. What is it that you're finding that you can be judgmental about? We're seeing this an awful lot at the moment, people being judgy on other people and thinking they're judge and jury when they shouldn't really.
No, but they don't see themselves being judgy, but they are.
Exactly.
And, you know, at the end of the day, people can do what they like. In the confounds of the law, you know, and then obviously when they break the law, they need to be held accountable by the law, not anybody else. And by putting it on social media, in whatever form you want to take it, you know, you're hindering that investigation if it does turn out to be investigated by the police.
I think the thing with this one is actually about self-analysis, isn't it? You know, whenever I've had an issue, it's always been a process. We've talked about this before. Is that process of discussion of what happened, who's culpable in that, and where I could have been different or worked differently, or whether it was me that triggered that, and that process of self-analysis in that is not so much self-analysis in regards to ripping myself to shreds, which has happened. It's about learning myself more, so I won't make that mistake again, or I learn from that. Because
exactly.
I think
there's nothing wrong in self-evaluating. You know, people do it all the time, and even like in my day job with the St John Ambulance, when I was ambulance trained, we used to do something called the CPD. And it was like continuing learning. And we would self-evaluate every patient that we come into contact with. You know, what did we do? What happened? Why did we do it the way we did it? You know, and could we have done it better? Could the patient have done anything? Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it's just self-evaluating so that the next patient that we deal with, could have a better experience. And in St John, it's all more about patient care than it is targets and things like that you get in like health centres and things like that, like NHS hospitals and stuff, because they do have targets to get, and sometimes patients get that hurried through experience. But with St John, it's very much patient care, and you know that's what we've always had drummed into us. It's all about the patients at the end of the day. So we do that self-evaluation for pretty much all the patients we obviously want to deal with. It's like if we get an interesting case, for example, you know, we could do the self-evaluation. I've had a patient with a head injury, and I actually started questioning myself, did I actually do the right thing? And so I actually spoke to my trainer at the time and said, look, this is the situation. Could I have done anything better? And I self-evaluated that way.
But that's a transferable skill that you can take into any situation in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so that's something you've learned through that working. But that's something you can take into any life, and recognizing what's your responsibility and not. You know, we've talked about this in regards to abuse victims. You can't change what's happened to you, but you have to recognize it's not your responsibility. It's what you do, whether you allow that to form your life or you leave it and move on from that and make it a strength rather than a weakness.
Well,
you know what I mean? It's things like that.
Said, it's what you do that defines you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Richard, Lucy, you've got anything to add to that?
No, I think I agree with both of you, what you said, really. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you self-evaluate, you come across something and you think, and this is where self-honesty comes in. You have to be incredibly honest with yourself. Did you behave in the best way? So human nature, you're not always going to be perfect at this. You know, there are times where I look back and think, oh God, I was shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have said that. That was a bit nasty. But I've always acknowledged that, you know, I've acknowledged that. I remember this incident, and I'm not proud of this, but I'm going to talk about it. I was out with a friend, and she'd just met somebody. She was well loved up, but I had just come out of something that was quite frankly abusive. Yeah, emotionally abusive, not physically. I was very negative towards relationships. I was like, yeah, well, it won't last, will it? And I was like, all right, Debbie Downer on her little bubble of happiness. And she walked away from that, like that evening, and she was it really upset her that I'd been like that. Now, I was talking from my perspective and how I was feeling at that time, and actually marred her happiness because of that. Anyway, when I got home, I was like, okay, that wasn't very nice. I was a bit of a bitch, quite frankly, about that. I went to her and I said, look, I'm really sorry. That's nothing to do with you. I wish you all the best in your relationship. Just because that's happened to me, don't mean to say it's going to happen to you. I hope it all works out. And I was talking from my person, you know, how my perspective and what I was going through at that time. And it wasn't fair for me to put that on you. And she didn't, you know, she wasn't very accepting of the apology, which I didn't expect her to be, but at least I'd acknowledged my fault in that situation. Do you know what I mean? And you know, that wasn't very nice to actually look at myself and go, oh, that was really not nice, Kel. That really weren't. That's not how a friend should be to a friend. You know what I mean? And you go, you know, that's self-honesty. That's sitting there and going, that doesn't sit right with me. Actually, I've got to try and make amends. I can't take back what I've said, but I can acknowledge that I was wrong in what I said.
Yeah.
You know, and that made a huge amount of difference in my relationship with that person, because I acknowledged where I went wrong. And that's where self-honesty comes in, self-responsibility. It was my responsibility to make that right because I was the one who made that wrong.
Yeah.
Now, it's up to that girl whether or not she accepts that or not. If she didn't want to accept it, that's fair dues. I've ruined that friendship because of myself, because of me. That's up to her then. But at least I've acknowledged that.
I'm back.
Richard fell into the studio there. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And we all make mistakes, you know, and it's how you deal with those mistakes that makes it better, you know. And if you own them, you make them, you own them. That's the way I look at it. You know, you can always apologise for it, or you know, there's always ways of going about it and making amends. But as you said, it's down to the injured party whether or not they want to accept it. But you've done all you can.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it. You can't do any more than that, so you can just move on from that. At least your conscience is clear.
Yeah, exactly. And it puts closure on that as well. Because if I hadn't have done that, even now, well, that happened years ago, even now I think that would still niggle me.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have done anything to try and make it right. Even if I never spoke to that girl again in my life, it still would have bugged me that I upset her that much. Do you know what I mean? So there is that self-responsibility, and self-responsibility comes self-honesty and acknowledging what you're responsible for and what you're not responsible for.
Yeah.
You know, you can't control the actions of others.
But then it also begs the question, right? Is she still with him?
Yeah, she is. She's got a baby and everything. Yeah, she's very, really, very, very happy. And I'm absolutely thrilled for her. She deserves it. She's a lovely, lovely girl. Yeah. And I was so wrong on that night. So wrong.
Yeah.
But I acknowledged it.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I mean, she doesn't live local, so I haven't seen her since. But we've, you know, talked on Messenger and stuff like that. But it's still, even now, I'm still kind of ashamed of myself for even done that in the first place. Even though I've done what I can, I'm still ashamed that I did that. But that shows me we've all got a dark side. We've all got love and light and the good side to us, but we have a dark side, and recognizing that is just as important.
Yeah.
You know, and that's part, you know, when we work spiritually, acknowledgement of your shadow self, your darker side, and accepting that you have flaws, even in your own perfection, is an important part of self-honesty. And those are the areas you work on. Those are the bits that you should work on. It's, you know, you work in love and kindness and compassion and empathy to all others. In reality, it's very hard to do that 100% of the time.
Do you really need to work on your dark side?
Yeah.
Because everything, that is the yin and the yang, isn't it? You're balanced by having a light side and a dark side. So
yeah.
if you work on your dark side, then surely that makes it unbalanced.
Yeah, but when we talk about your dark side, we're not just talking about you being a bitch, for example. You're talking about those mind monkeys that come in, that negative self-talk. That's your dark side. You need to work on that. Why do you hold yourself back, your fears and your blockages? That's deep dark side blockages that you need clearing, and that's revisiting things that you don't really want to revisit. That's your dark side.
Yeah. I must admit, I don't listen to my dark side.
I think I encountered my dark side when I was trying to reboot my Skype.
Yeah. I decided a long time ago my dark side just talks crap. I ignore it.
But it has affected you in the past.
Oh, it has, yeah, definitely.
So, you know, it's all well and good. We can sit here today. We're all in pretty good place, all of us.
Yeah.
But now we are. But yeah. I know I still have issues that I've got to face. My social anxiety, I've got to face it. That's not going to be pretty. I'm not looking forward to it. But bearing in mind, right, so just before the pandemic, I got myself into a really good mindset, and I was determined to tackle it, wasn't I?
Yeah, you was.
And I made loads of plans, some very challenging plans, but I'd set myself goals and I'd made steps to do this. And I got myself into a situation where I was going to say yes to stuff rather than no, because anybody can find an excuse to say no, right? But I got myself pre-pandemic, in just before the pandemic, timing, to do this. Then the pandemic hit, got locked down for a year. And for the last year, I've been in a really comfortable position of somebody has said to me, don't go out.
Yeah.
Don't. You have to say no. You can't go out. You can't see your friends. You can't see your family. There's nothing to do. Nothing's open. Well, now we're coming out. My old fears are re-emerging. And I'm sitting there going, no. And I was talking, we was with friends last night, and we was talking about things you want to do, and I felt myself, and I could hear myself, and I was going, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can do that. I can't do that. No, I can't do that. And it's my own social anxiety is kicking back in. Now I can do stuff. I kind of don't want to. And I'm finding every excuse under the sun not to do it, to the point my partner went, oh, this is going to be hard work. Because he didn't see me when I was at my worst with my social anxiety. When he met me, I was in that position where I was trying to tackle it.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So now I've come out of this. I've now got to re-tackle that because I wasn't able to do it when I was in the mind space to do it. So I'm having to do a lot of work in that way to tackle that bit. Now that, I don't even know where that's come from, this social anxiety, but I've got to do the examination. I've got to do the work. I've got to break through that barrier again and get myself into the strong mindset of I can do it. It's nothing bad is going to happen when I do it. And I can't even relate my social anxiety to a particular incident, but there's something, and that's deep work. That's work I'm going to have to do again to get to that point. The difference is I want to do that.
That's the point, isn't it? It's that positive thinking, and you want to do it, so it's something you will do. You just got to do it in your own time.
It's the recognition that I need to do that work. I've got to do that work. I want to do that work.
And you will, because you're in that mindset.
Of course I will. I mean, we've got an investigator. I booked the first investigation for this year. Paul's got an event going on at RF Nettie's Head, and he's been saying, do it, come. And I'm like, oh, yeah, work and all kids and all dog and all this and but it's how far is it? And I don't know if I want to travel that far. And COVID and how many excuses have I come up with?
Loads, but we've ignored you every way.
Yeah, so come on, Cal, you can do it.
Yeah.
And in the end, I was sort of backed into a corner. And I spoke to my boss, got the time off work. Right, so that's a tick. Didn't tell anybody I'd done that, but that was the first step. Right. Then I spoke to my partner. Do you want to do it? So now putting the ball in his court to give me an out. Yeah. He was like, yeah, let's do it. And then it was like, yeah, but how are we going to get there? So I'm finding, and this isn't something I'm consciously doing. This is just coming out of me. And all these obstacles are being dealt with. Right, so we're going with Richard. It's all organised. It's all planned. Then all I had to do was pay for the ticket. That's all I had to do. That's all. Every other obstacle had been removed, but still, I held back. Right, and in the end, I just went, I'm going to do it, and I just threw it out. Not literally. I didn't just throw it at Paul, obviously, but I just threw it out and just paid it. Now I have got no reason not to do that event. But in my head, I'm still going, oh my God.
But you can also take comfort in knowing that you are going to be doing it with friends.
Yeah.
And judge you or anything like that.
Exactly.
For these insecurities. And
it is a sort of...
Well, we've got your back. You'll be fine.
You'll be fine, yeah.
But my point in that is even how I come across as very confident. People can't understand this. I mean, how many people in the field have said, oh, God, I'd love to work with you or come out or meet you or come to this event or do that event. And every time I've said no, they think I'm standoffish because I come across so confident on the radio. But it's not that. It really isn't that. It's to do with this. And this is work I'm going to have to do. It's deep shadow self-work. It's something that's holding me back and blocking me. And this is work I have to do as a spiritual. That's my responsibility to myself. To deal with this. This isn't on anybody else. I can be supported by the people around me.
Yeah.
But I'm the one that's got to take responsibility to deal with that. So, that social anxiety that I get. And if I do go and I have a meltdown, I'm surrounded by people that will support me.
Yeah.
And that's important, an important step. So you know, when we talk about spiritual work being, you know, glitter and unicorns, it's not. It's messy and horrible. But it's about evolution, self-evolution. And within self-evolution, you have to grow. And to grow, you have to work through these blockages. And they could be something as simple as doing a train journey you don't want to do. We all have to do things we don't want to do. Pushing yourself to do it. Or recognizing that actually there's a problem here. I'm deliberately making excuses as to why I can't do something. What is going on there? What is that? Working in that way. You know what I mean? And this is part of spiritual work. It's not just about manifestation and I'm getting lots of money and meeting my partner and, you know, doing this. Why aren't you tackling the job you hate that you go to for your 9 to 5? You spend a lot of time at work. You hate your job. Why aren't you moving job? What's your fear block there? You know, Taz Thornton, famous one. She was in a really well-paid city job, like no problem at all. Really good at her job. She just got really depressed. You know, didn't like doing it. Oh, and literally just one day said, "No, I want to go into life coaching." And she literally walked out of that job, and then started doing what she does now. And look at her now.
Yeah.
And she was nearly suicidal at one point. Because she wasn't living her truth. She wasn't being her authentic self in her corporate 9 to 5 job. And I'm not sitting here saying to everybody, just walk out your job. You know, do what you want to do. You've got to be right. It's got to be the right move as well.
Oh, definitely. It's got to be good, you know, right for you.
A positive step for yourself. When I picked up crystals and to sell crystals, that was the right step for me. But that won't be necessarily right for you, Paul.
No, it'd be no good for me.
But
I don't know enough about them to even hazard a guess. And I'm no good at selling either. I'll just be like, well, there you go, there's a red crystal.
But
Don't know what it is, don't know what it does, it's red.
But the responsibility on you would be to look at the skills you do have and go, okay, so this is my skill set. How can I transfer these into a job that I really want to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What work do I need to do? Self-work.
I think I've done that very well.
Yeah. What self-work do I need to do to make this what I want it to be?
Yeah.
My life the way it wants to be. And there's self-responsibility in that, self-honesty.
Definitely.
I mean, much as I'd love to run a marathon, I'm not made out. I could if I really wanted to, and I really pushed myself and ran every single day. Eventually, I probably could run a marathon. I have no willpower to do that whatsoever. But if I really wanted to, I could.
Yeah, I've done a London Marathon. It's nothing. No, I'm never doing it again.
You've actually run the London Marathon?
No, I was on. No, that's silly.
I think both me and Lucy, if we'd been in the same room, we would have looked at each other and gone, "What?"
Yeah, no.
I'm not that silly. No
You
way.
ran the London Marathon. Oh my God.
Comfort, not speed.
Yeah.
But I know where my skill set lies, and believe me, I'll be more useful. I'm more useful as the first aid cover for that.
Exactly.
He'd be waiting at the finish line with oxygen tanks, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and it's again trying to live your authentic self and be, you know, do what you want to do. Again, that's not an easy process, is it?
No. That's it. And Richard's just fell out of the studio again.
He keeps falling in and out. He's very drunk tonight.
He really needs to close that window.
He'll join us again in a moment.
I'm sure.
But, you know, and also it's be realistic.
Oh, absolutely.
About, you know, your goals. I mean, let's be fair. I'm not really built for running a marathon or climbing a mountain. Yeah, I could probably do it if I really wanted to and blah, 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 but I don't really want to. And quite frankly, I'm 50, my joints ache these days. I can't be bothered with it. So I'm realistic about that.
Yeah.
Be realistic about your expectation. I'm not saying limit yourself, but just be realistic. In the same way as if you was looking for a partner and you wanted Magic Mike, realistically, you ain't going to get a Magic Mike. realistically?
Well, you say that, but it's going to be a real situation for somebody.
Yeah, but is it right for them? Because let's be fair, you've got a bloke that's going out stripping all night, women throwing themselves at him. Are you secure enough in yourself that you could put up with that? Be realistic.
Yeah.
Personally, I couldn't be with somebody like that because I'd be so jealous because of the women factor, throwing themselves. Oh, couldn't trust that he would be faithful.
Mm.
Now,
Yeah.
yes, that's a personal hang up for me. You
I
should be
feel
trusting.
exactly the same.
Exactly. But I just
Yeah,
know
I'm
myself
good
well
for
enough to know that that would trigger that. And I couldn't trust that person because of the job he did. No
Yeah.
matter how lovely he was to me, the job he did. And if I asked him to change himself to fit me, then that's not fair.
Mm.
Someone can only change if they want to.
Yeah, no, that's right.
So this is where you've got to be realistic, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
He's going to trigger that in me, even if he's not doing anything to deserve that trigger, if you know what I mean, just through the job he does.
Mm.
Magic Mike, this is we're talking, and purely analogical, or whatever the word is, metaphorically.
Yeah.
Analytical,
maybe.
So there's just no point to that.
Yeah.
That's a big red flag for me and my insecurities of self. And yes, I can work on those insecurities, but how much is that going to drain me just on one thing to keep that going? And how much am I going to lose of myself whilst trying to work on that within the relationship? And is it worth it? For me personally, it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
And there's that recognition of that. And that's got actually nothing to do with the poor guy, this fantastically looking, well buff, gorgeous specimen of a creature. It's nothing to do with him. That's actually to do with me, not him.
Mm.
But I just know myself that wouldn't suit me. And so I wouldn't even.
Well, you said that's
Not that I would get the chance to, Luce, you know what I mean? But, we're talking metaphorically and all that. Oh,
yeah.
dear.
It is quite, although, you've got to be realistic in your expectations. It is quite funny sometimes to explore the possibilities. And do you remember when we had that offline chat, off-air chat one night, and we actually put a dream paranormal convention
Yeah.
together? That was absolutely mental. Some of the people we had on that.
Yeah, the Dream and Drunken, I would like to add, paranormal convention that we came up with.
Well, to be fair, you might have been drunk, but I wasn't. And it was pretty good from where I was sitting.
I think you were drunk on the atmosphere, to be fair, that night. Yeah. And we actually worked out that we would need an Arab or somebody rich to actually finance this, because there's no way we'd turn a profit on it.
Yeah, didn't we come up with like 80,000 or something?
It was something per ticket.
Yeah.
To achieve what we wanted to achieve, which kind of, showed us that it's not as easy as you think it is to run a paranormal convention, quite frankly.
To be fair, I think there might be a lot of people that will be interested in that one, but no, realistically, it's not going to happen.
No,
but
so
it's fun.
be
It was
realistic. Yeah.
But
it was, it's fun to explore that possibility, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And when we win the lottery, when it's like 50 times rollover, we'll put that on for everybody.
Maybe we will.
Buys the tickets. Hey, I don't mind. I would enjoy it.
We can finance that. Yeah. Oh dear. I don't know, but it is fun to explore, but sometimes you have to be realistic in your expectation, and that's the other thing, isn't it? When we talk about manage your expectations, you can only be responsible for yourself. You can't be responsible for other people, and half the time your expectations are on other people, and if they don't live up to those expectations, then that's very, it can be very damaging, actually, to self.
Definitely. So Crystal's Kerry on putting your dreams out there and helping you through what you want to achieve. What would you recommend for people on that?
What crystal would you use for that?
Yeah.
Well, personally, because you've got to do a lot of self-work on that one to find out really what that is. That's a lot of self-work. So you go for meditating crystals. I would work with labradorite, for that sort of thing. I would go for the amethysts, but I'd work with those in conjunction with meditations and work really deeply in that way. So those kind of crystals. Amethyst is your go-to crystal for pretty much everything. Yeah, it's really great. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds, thousands of crystals out there. All of them have got different energy signatures, will do different things. And finding the one that works for you to get you to do the best you can be is a process of elimination, quite frankly. You get drawn to one for different times in your life. That's why you end up with a massive collection of them, because different ones call to you at different times. Yeah. But so it's very difficult sometimes to go, yeah, well, that's your go-to crystal for that, because it might not work for everybody. So for me personally, if I was working for that purpose, that intention, I'd be using the labradorites. God, I can't even spell it. Labradorites, things like that, something with a sheen, a moonstone, those kind of things, just to bring that level of your deep subconscious coming forward and giving you the answers as much as anything else. And those crystals will work with you to do that. So those are the kind of crystals I would work with for that.
Yeah, because this is me coming from me personally, because I've been through and used the tools of manifestation and stuff, and asked the universe for things back. And I always carry green aventurine on me, just for luck. Nothing purely for anything else, just for luck, to bring me that little bit of luck.
Yeah.
If I'm ever going for a job interview, during the pandemic, actually, I carried it because I was just like, it's very calming, I find. Like, go into a shop and I think, wish me luck, because I'm going in a shop and, some shops that you haven't been in, and you just come out. That's me personally, anyway.
So, Richard, before you fall out that window again.
Well, before I go crashing out again,
yeah. Just before you fall out that window, do you carry any crystals with you?
No, I don't. No, I have I only have 3 crystals. They are the skulls I've actually purchased from Kerry over the months, and
Do you know what they are?
I've got a clear quartz one. That's about it. Mr. Benson and Hedges I've got, and I've got a red one. I just like the colours. I go for the colours. Whether they actually sort of are doing anything to me or not, I'm not actually aware of. I just let them sit there and let them be.
I must admit, I've got all my crystal spheres on the TV unit, and they're all in one line. Lucy's put them in a line, and I actually picture them almost like little Care Bears, and just energy springing from their bellies.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it.
In your field, in the crystal field, are people more drawn to the colours of crystals more than the properties of them? More, would you say? Do you think like people are drawn to like reds rather than greens, or greens rather than blues and stuff like that? Do you ever find that?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, sometimes it would just purely be the colour saturation of a crystal that they'll go, oh, God, that's gorgeous. And most times I would say it's the markings. It's to do with the actual the aestheticness of the crystal, as in how it looks. It may not be the prettiest crystal, it could be an ugly bug kind of crystal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But something is just like, I've got to have it. I mean, I was watching a seller earlier, and she had some celestite in sandstone, basically, and it's super crumbly. So basically you could buy the rock, and the seller's going, this is super crumbly. If I send it to you, it may not arrive in one piece. They were buying it hand over fist because it was the energy coming off of it was so strong. And she said, I've had this for 6 months. I've not shown it because it's so crumbly. I don't know what to say about it, really. It's not the quality I would like to give. You know what I mean? So I've held it back. She goes, and you lot are all buying it. I can't understand it. I can't understand it. But what she's missing is the fact that all these crystals are calling to people. And they're all laid out on the floor. There was a great big mass of them on the floor. And they're beautiful, beautiful blue celestite, gorgeous, gorgeous crystal. And she's picking one up, and you could see it was breaking apart in her hands. Some of them, some were a bit harder to break, but she was like being dead honest about the formation quality of them. And but people were buying them hand over, and actually, as bits are breaking off, people are going, "I'll have the bit that just broke off." Do you know what I mean? And it just goes to show that it's not always about the prettiest or the biggest or the most expensive. It's about the crystal is calling to you. This particular day, she was like, "Oh, I've got these, if anyone's interested, but they're really bad quality in regards to they're falling to pieces. I don't know what to do with them. I've had them 6 months," and everyone's going, "Oh my God, I'll have that one and I'll have this one." And literally the feed was going crazy on these. And as she's picking up bigger pieces, bits are falling off of it, and then people are grabbing the little bits. And then there was like loads of individual celestite crystals that had come off the crystal. She was bagging them up, and people were buying them as just single point, like tiny little points and stuff like that. It went, and she couldn't believe it. But it just showed that sometimes it's not about the perfection in a crystal. You're not. When you go into a crystal shop, 9 times out of 10, you ain't going to buy the prettiest crystal in the room. It'll be the one that calls to you, and that could be a marking that calls to you, or the colour that calls to you, or it'll be something, and it could be the ugliest crystal in the shop, and all of a sudden you've got to have it.
That doesn't just apply to crystals though, because I used to do a boot sale with a friend of mine. And we used to go to auctions to buy some of the stock. And we bought a big box of robots. And we went through them. And I think like half the robots worked, half the robots didn't. So we thought we'd put them both up for sale. Obviously, the robots that worked didn't sell quite as quickly as the broken ones.
It's weird, isn't it?
The broken ones all sold really quick. I did put a note on the box saying broken robots need a good home. And maybe that's just what sold it to the kids. I don't know.
Possibly.
It was really strange that everyone bought the broken ones and we struggled selling the ones that worked.
But right, let's look at a marketing thing right here. McDonald's. The toys that you used to get in the Happy Meal.
I still collect them.
They were crap toys, to be fair.
Oh, no. Yes,
right? But they're collector's items.
Yeah.
And the kids, like, when we did boot sales, like getting rid of the kids' toys and stuff as they grew out of them, I didn't obviously sell the ones they were playing with. It was the ones they'd grown out of at varying times. We'd have a box of bits that, had come from various, God knows what had happened to the toy, or where it come from in the first place. You chuck them in a box. The kids would spend hours going through it, and you'd sell loads just from that. Another man's trash is another man's treasure.
Exactly. I've still got some of the McDonald's toys I had. Wind-up cars. But they're not the same quality anymore. They're not as good as they used to be. But yeah, the wind-up cars. I've even got like the family of the chicken nugget people that they had.
Yeah, but it's what a great marketing tool, and that's now fantastic. But it just goes to show the proof that it doesn't have to be the biggest, shiniest, blingiest toy. It could be the crappiest little toy that gets the attention of the child or the person or whoever, So don't. With crystals, it's exactly the same thing. I get drawn to crystals when I'm buying them, and it's not for myself because I'm not buying for myself.
Do you know when it's for yourself there, Kerry? Do you feel differently, or
it's an instant hit? I had a carnelian skull that came in, which I'd actually bought to sell. The minute it came out the box, I knew it was staying. That was not going anywhere. It sits on my desk now. And the same, I bought a couple of amethyst skulls. One of those I knew was mine. It weren't going nowhere. And I mean, I have a lot of crystals pass through my hands, a lot. And some pieces I've bought thinking, I'll keep that one when it arrives. And I haven't, because it just didn't feel right for me personally. I knew I didn't have to work with that. And bearing in mind, I mean, I'm lucky enough that my stock, I could use my stock for myself and then sell it, couldn't I? But
how you feel at the time, though, isn't it, as well?
yeah.
Coming from personal experiences, like I do buy crystals off you,
Hmm.
and there's some that I've seen in the shop and when you do your lives and stuff, and it's not felt right then, but a few months down the line, I've gone, oh, and I just scan around your shop and I think, oh yeah, she's got it. I need that. Whereas before, it wasn't resonating with me, and it's
Yeah.
quite strange how a couple of months on, that something in my life has changed to make me need that crystal.
Yeah. To bring that in,
Into
which you've
my
dismissed
life.
before. Yeah, which you would have dismissed before.
Yeah.
It is strange. I mean, I bought a rose quartz, a piece of rose quartz, and I just knew it was for me. Tried working with it, it didn't work, so I put it on my shelf, left it, and then all of a sudden, and it was probably a good 2 years later, I worked with it, and it was powerful. I'd always underestimated rose quartz until I got that piece, and that's why when I talk about rose quartz, I talk about it's very subtle. It's not always the one you're going to work with intensely. It will all of a sudden come in, and then you'll work with it intensely. It's that kind of crystal because it has that very a harder energy about it than some of the other ones. You know, some of the other pink crystals like tourmalines and the chalcedonies and the hemimorphite. So they're all pink crystals. You know what I mean? But they're different. But when you work with rose quartz, so I've never moved it on. It was definitely supposed to be for me, but it wasn't for me at that moment. But a couple of years down the line, it then kicked in, and that I worked very intensely with it. It was a very powerful experience, and I've still got it, and it's back on the shelf, and I know that won't move on.
I think it's quite weird about that orange rose as well. The one you just bought for me.
Yeah. Now, a couple of weeks ago, Paul talks about this on a show about buying his mum had ordered his first pyramid, wasn't it, of your resin work that you want to do. And she's got this orange rose that was reminiscent, is it, of your
granddad?
Of your granddad, that's right. And so Paul's working on this pyramid, blah, blah. Anyway, now I know my crystal sellers stockroom like the back of my hand. I know what they've got. I know different pieces coming in. They always notify me on new pieces, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they're scanning around the warehouse and we're chatting away. Then all of a sudden, this orange rose pops up. And I'm like, I've never seen this before in her warehouse at all. And I'm like, is that an orange rose? And she was like, yeah, it's a cat's eye. Perfect. Right. Cat's eye is glass, by the way. It's got a beautiful sheen on it. It's not natural crystal. And it's like it was in the corner. And I said, can I look at it? And it was just, I'd never seen it before. I didn't even know. I knew she had snowflakes. I knew she had cat's eye hearts. You know, all of these were in the same area. Hadn't seen the roses. But it was just there, right in front of me as I was talking to her. All of a sudden, as she's scanning around, I went, is that not? And I was like, I've got to have it. Now, I hadn't spoken to Paul. This was a completely separate time to a conversation with Paul. I'm thinking it was orange, wasn't it? It was orange. I'm going to get it. Sod it. I'll get it. If it wasn't, if I've got it wrong, fine. Like this. So I picked it up. Anyway, I was talking to him on Skype. I said, oh, by the way, I picked up an orange rose cat's eye carving for you. No obligation to buy it. Do you know what I mean? If it's not right. I said, but it just was there in the warehouse. And how many times have I been in that warehouse?
Yeah, loads.
Hundreds. I've never seen it. Yet all of a sudden, right place, right time, it was there. And I'm just waiting for it to arrive now. But it's like, it's the weirdest thing. You can't, it's one of those intangible, non-scientific things that if you spoke to a scientist, they'd be like, it's totally woo-woo and it's no basis in scientific fact at all. No, it isn't. Totally hold my hands up to that. But once you start working with crystals, once you start bringing them, incorporating them into your life and your home and start really working with them on a spiritual perspective, and it is a spiritual perspective, they start resonating with you and things start to happen. And it's the strangest thing when it does happen.
The thing is as well, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, true.
That is true.
Yeah.
It's one of the strangest things. But spiritual working is more than just using tools. And that's, I think, what we've tried to demonstrate tonight, or on this show, is that it's not just about the tools. The crystals are a tool. They'll work with you, not for you. Do you know what I mean? They're not going to do the work for you. They'll help you do it like your best mate will do it for you. They'll be there supporting you, pushing you, opening up the opportunities, giving you ideas, giving you inspiration, making you face the things you don't want to face. They'll do that for you. They'll help you bridge that gap with universal energy. But it comes from the spirituality, the spiritual workings. It comes from you. And that's the important recognition of any spiritual work that you can do. And that is something anybody and everybody can embrace.
Do you remember me ages ago contacting you, Kerry? Because I've got, like, malachite is one of the crystals that I can't work with. And I've got this tiny piece, and I know I can't work with it because it burns me. And I put a crystal in my bra every morning. It doesn't matter where I go. I also wear crystals, carry them with me in my bag and stuff like that. But I've got all my crystals in a little tray. And then for some reason, this particular morning, I was drawn to the malachite, and I thought, oh, I'll go with it because it's telling me that I need to work with it today. And I remember messaging Kerry going, oh my God, like, I can wear malachite now and not have a reaction to it. Because it felt ready for me. It was a good 1.5 years before I was able to work with it. But maybe, you know, I've gone up a notch in spiritual vibration, which made me work with it better. And able to work with it, so I didn't get the reaction. But it's still, like I say, it's just a tiny piece. If I touch a bigger piece than that, it's like too much of a empowerment for me on that.
There are some crystals that I can't work with moldavite at all. I've tried it, I've had some, I've sold it, but I can't work with it personally. It's just too, whoa. You know what I mean? It's like, it gives me a blinding headache.
That's what malachite used to do with me. Really.
Yeah. There's very few now, personally, very few that I can't work with, but moldavite is definitely one. But it's like LSD of the crystal world. It is totally out of this world. And then as you work with different crystals, then you do learn their different energy signatures and recognize that some you're not always going to work with or be drawn to. You know, and everybody will have a crystal that they work really well with all the time. Like for me, it's black obsidian. You know, my pendulum is black obsidian. If I can scribe brilliantly with black obsidian. You know, those kind of tools I utilize for that kind of work. If in doubt, I get my black obsidian out. You know what I mean? Is sort of like for a personal working. So there's very few now that I get that I can't work with, but my personal crystal collection is not as extensive as people would think. I think people would imagine my house to be like riddled with crystals, and it's not. It really isn't. I have specific pieces that I work with personally, and do the intense work that I do on the other side of things that I do. But
we testify to that.
Yeah, and the same pieces I'll work with because I've grown a really close infinity with that particular crystal. But if I want to just admire crystals and work with something different, I've got a room full that I can work with. But very rarely do I keep them. And sometimes personal crystals would want to move on. You'll work really intensely with a piece, and all of a sudden it would just be like, no, I've done my work with you, I'm off.
Yeah.
And if you don't move it on to somebody else, like gift it to somebody else or sell it on to somebody else, or, you know, acknowledge that work's done and move it on in some way, it'll move itself. And that's why I always talk about crystals as sentient beings, because they will it's a bit like cats. They'll go where they want to be rather than anything else, to the point where they can even repulse you, to the point where you've got to move it on. I had a friend, she's got a ruby. She bought a ruby. Fantastic record keeper on the top. It's an amazing piece of ruby. And she brought it round and she gifted it to me because she said, I can't work with it. It's horrible. I get bad visions with it. It's not good. I think it's belonged to somebody before me that was working occult-wise, in a not very good occult-wise as well. Can you see what you get with it? So I'm giving it to you. Oh, cheers. Thanks. And thanks ever so much. I really appreciate that. I've worked with it. And yes, I've seen the visions that she saw, and yes, I can feel what she felt from it. That doesn't scare me though. I can work through that and clear that. So I'm actually working for the crystal and helping the crystal clear itself of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I'm doing that crystal a favour, and it's still with me. It's not actually going to go anywhere because we've now got quite a close affinity, me and that Ruby. But there's more work to be done with it, and it's a long process. It's not a 5-minute process, and it's a wonderful world you open yourself up to. And this would be whether it's herbology, plants and gardening, anything organic you can get this with. For me, it's crystals, and I advocate crystals in everyday life all the while. And people are surprised when they come in my house and realize it's not as crystallized as they think it is. Yet they walk in my crystal room and they're like, "Whoa, my God, that's off the scale." Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
And I very rarely wear crystals. I might carry a crystal occasionally, but I very rarely carry one. I don't wear jewelry. I've got 2 crystal necklaces that I'll wear occasionally, but I won't wear them every day. It's because I've worked on other spiritual techniques alongside crystals that I can utilize in my day-to-day life. And I also recognize I have a personal energy signature that can get influenced by crystals, but I don't always want my energy signature influenced.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about discernment of when and where I use my crystals and how I use my crystals. No more than I would have a friend that's stuck with me 24/7. I have a massive group of friends, and I have different friends for different things, as you do. Everyone does that. Crystals are exactly the same. And so when I say crystals are like humans, that's exactly how you would do it. People come, people go, people sometimes stay forever, and crystals are very, very much like that. And it's that acknowledgement of spiritual self working alongside organic signatures, energy signatures, and recognition of their own little personalities that get you working in the best way possible with crystals. It's just a fascinating world. It's not black and white. There's a lot of grey. There's a lot of nuances and subtleties and things, undercurrents and energies. It's just amazing. It's just an amazing world that I'm in, and it's just fantastic. I love it.
I'm going to put you on the spot a bit now.
Uh-huh.
Okay. With what's going on, and all 3 of us really, really well, Perry.
Yeah.
What crystal would you recommend at the moment for each one of us in life?
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Oh God.
Well, Richard needs
just
a
throw
brick.
a spanner in the works there.
Richard needs a brick.
Okay. Well,
I need a brick to throw at my computer. Yeah.
No, take this personally. This is just my personal opinion, and I'll put a disclaimer on this in case I mortally offend anybody.
Right, here we go.
In case I mortally offend somebody. Right, for Richard, you need to embrace your spiritual side. You've shut down totally on everything.
Right.
You've totally enclosed yourself off now, and you need to open up and start recognizing your own abilities and embracing those own abilities, as well as incorporating connection again. And not be afraid of that. So personally for you, I will actually put an amethyst with you, because that will help you do that without becoming too connected, that you're too needy, if that makes sense.
Right, okay.
And I don't mean that rudely.
No, move on. No offence taken, my dear.
Oh, thank goodness for that. Paul, for you, I want to give you some energy. I want to put more energy so you don't rely on others too much, that you you know you can do it, you just choose not to. So I kind of want you to be a bit more pushing yourself forward a little bit more in things. That's what I want for you and what you need to do at the moment. So for you, I kind of want to put I want to go for more of a smoky quartz, take that fear out of things for you, that just go for it. You're too laid back at times with things. So I want to give you a smoky quartz, cut the ties that are binding you back and free yourself up a bit and take that fear of rejection and failure out of that. That's what I want to put with you at the moment.
Have I got one?
I don't think you have, actually.
I've got one.
Oh, there's one better flat anyway.
Yeah, that's fine. So that's what I want to put with you, because you've got, a little while ago, you was full of inspiration and ideas and putting the seeds down, if you remember rightly. We spoke about this before in another show a couple of months back. You've not done anything about that, not really. Not to the extent you could have done by now. So you're holding yourself back. So you need to cut those ties and push yourself forward for that. And that's what I want to do for you. Lucy, I just want to wrap you in a big blanket of love and compassion and empathy, and really appreciate what you do bring to the table. And, so I kind of want to put pink tourmaline around you, because you don't appreciate yourself enough and your own talents, and you don't recognize your skills that you've got within you, your transferable skills. You're not recognizing that. And I do honestly think that you need to do that embracing of your self-work. So that's kind of what I want to do for you. I want to put you in a bubble of pink. So I want to put a pink tourmaline with you, because you're too humble, quite frankly. And at this moment in time, you need to be, again, embracing yourself, but in a loving way. Embrace yourself and respect yourself for what you have gone through and what you have fought and the battles you fought for yourself and where you've got now. You should be probably at one of the most empowered points in your life, and you're not, and you need to be. And that's what I want to put you working with, because that will give you that. So those are the crystals I think would work for you. Yeah,
look what you got now. I mean, you've got your own freezer.
Woohoo! Happy birthday, Luce. Oh, bless her. But I don't know if you guys can take that, but that's what I personally would be bringing to the table.
I'll take mine.
I'll take mine as well.
And you can take yours, Paul.
I'll see you guys. But then I did make a start today, so.
Today,
yeah.
How long has that project been sitting on the shelf?
About a week.
I think me and Richard and Lucy could both verify it's been longer than a week.
No, it hasn't. I've only been here about a week, and all.
Yeah, but what Kerry's saying is that you spoke about this months ago, and you've done bits, but you've never.
Yeah, but as I said, it's only practice. But now I'm getting into the swing of things. Yeah. I've set myself up a website for the selling of things.
There you go then. So watch your space, guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, watch your space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Thanks for that, Kerry. Really interesting.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. But I do know you all very well, but I can do that for strangers too. So, I have people message me saying, what crystal do you think's good for me? And I'll just look at a picture and I can, first of all, it starts off as a colour spectrum. And then through that colour spectrum, it then comes down into varying crystals, like softer crystals, harder crystals, those kind of things. And then all of a sudden, the crystals start to form in front of my third eye, I suppose you would call it, my mind's eye. And then it will formulate into the crystal that they need. And then I'll go, bang, that's what you need. And they'll go, oh, my God. And I don't know how it works. It's one of those, I don't know where that information comes from, but that's what I seem to have a talent for, which is where my intuitive pouches came from, which I put to one side really for the moment. The focus has really been on individual pieces rather than the pouch work, because they take a lot of time.
Didn't you recently have a customer that said, this is my budget, pick what you want?
Yeah. Yeah, this is my budget. I need crystals for my house. And and we didn't know what he needed, to be fair. He just said, I've got this amount of money. Tell me what I need. Tell me where I need to put them. And yeah.
I bet you have fun with that.
Oh, I love things like that. That's like your personal shopper, isn't it?
It is.
Crystals.
Personals.
You know what I mean? And I'm very discerning on that as well. I won't
People pay extra for that.
Yeah, but I don't charge extra. It's just the cost of the crystals. But it's just like, for me, it's like an unscrupulous seller could have took advantage of that and gone, oh God, all those pieces that I can't move on are the ones you need.
Yeah.
No, that took me a long time to get the balance perfect. And I changed crystals.
I do know that you, when you choose crystals and stuff, you sort of like listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You pick the crystal for the person.
Yeah, I could have, and if I haven't got the right crystal, I won't sell you just any old crystal.
No.
I've been known at an MBS fair before now. A person has picked a crystal I really wanted it, and I've gone, that's not the one for you. And the person was mortally offended. Well, I know what's right for me and all this. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. You buy it if you want to, but you'll be back because it's not right. And, I've refused to sell before now because it wasn't right. It just did not feel right, and they're my responsibility to make sure they go to the right person.
Yeah.
And the right and that's why I get repeat customers, so many repeat customers, because if it's not right, I won't sell it. Do you know what I mean? Or I'll get the piece in that's meant for them. I'll be buying with them in mind. If they want a say they want a lepidolite point, I could have 4 in stock, and they're not right. So I'll be at my wholesaler and I'll be looking specifically for that person, then the right one will come through. And so far, touch wood, everyone's been very happy with what I've chosen. But anyway, we're coming to the end of the show, guys.
We are.
Yes.
Any news to report?
No, the book is still on sale, and I had a notification today from Amazon that actually said they are available now in Australia. So people in Australia can now get the Paranormal Concept Extra book.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's available worldwide now, literally everywhere. Just go to your own country's Amazon, type in the Paranormal Concept Extra, and buy the book.
Kerry, where can they find you if they want to come and have a look at your crystals and things?
Well, I just sell on Facebook through Spirit and Soul Island Crystals. Search out Spirit and Soul Island and you will find me, or just Google Kerry Greenaway and it will bring up the link for you.
And you ship everywhere, don't you?
Yeah, ship worldwide. Yeah, I do ship worldwide for people. I've got quite a few customers in America and Spain and Europe and all over the place I sell to.
Oh, that's great. It's good to hear.
Yeah, it's doing
Richard,
really well.
have you got any last-minute messages?
No, not really. Just trying to think. No, I think you've covered them, haven't you, Paul? Well, and whilst people are sort of like looking for the paranormal concept, they can also check us out online. You'll get links to our books there, and all the shows are posted up there. So,
Definitely.
and head over to our website, which is just basically paranormalconcept.com.
Excellent.
And Richard?
Yes.
Just in case anybody wants a book.
Yes.
Where can they find your books?
Oh, yes, I didn't think about that. Yeah, you might as well. Yes, you can find my books on eBay, and I have an eBay store, Unearthly Books. Just tap that into eBay, and that should take you straight to my shop. Thanks for that.
So that's one plug, one advertisement. That's £750.
Yeah, that's right.
It's okay, because when you're advertising your personal website and shop for the new things that are just about to come, we'll send that little cost right back at you. On that note, we've actually come totally to the end of the show. Paranormalconcept.com for anything to do with the Paranormal Concept Show, and you can find any of us guys through there as well. On that note, say goodnight, guys, and thank you, Lucy, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Luz. Good night.
Good night, guys, everyone.
Bye.